there are many other groups out there, but these three groups might have neglected something. So let's list those things that we think are missing. Yeah. And then after that, I don't know how far we can go with deep dives, because deep dives can go on forever. And it's what time is it? It's 3:30 now. We have 30 minutes. According to the original, timetable. So what do you want to? I think the deep dive, people who are asking for a deep dive want to discuss the detail of why is land not in our hands and stuff like that.
I want to guide that.
Yeah, but we're not doing that. Are you satisfied? Are you happy with there?
Yeah, we'll still do it.
Okay.
I'll send it.
Okay.
Can I ask? In our quest for deep dive, can we ask the question, equality, sustainability, solidarity, what is it under solidarity? When done, the problem of insolidarity will be solved. What is 1, 2, or 3 things? When those things are done, the problem of lack of solidarity will be in place. Okay? Because writing a litany of things, I can tell you, it's very difficult to achieve all of them, because all of them have different effects. If you ask the question, what is it? One thing. Take, for example, if you take a stone and throw it in the pond, what happens? This is a ripple, okay? It shows that the center moves everything to the periphery. It's so in dealing with problems. What is it when done? Everything around it will be solved.
Are you already deep diving, sir?
Yeah. So I want to use something that you must begin to think through.
Okay, but let's it seems like I'm chaotic here. The people who've just stepped out are going to try and come up with that list. Okay, remember, we pretty much agreed there should be nothing about us without us, but they're going to do something about us without us out there. They'll come back and present the list that's consolidated with all the categories to you guys, and you'll say yay or nay. If you're happy to leave them to do that and come back hopefully very soon, it shouldn't be too long, we can then continue with the deep dive or add things that we think are missing.
With respect, Dr. Musoma raised 2 things which should guide us. We deal with the effects, not the cause. The one thing that is the root of all the things listed, why don't we engage with those ideas well?
But now we just explaining the process of putting the list together. We are engaged in those things. I would not want you to go home and say, you know what, that man never allowed me to say what I wanted to say. I don't want to be that man. So, are you okay with the list?
Who went outside to do the list?
Nhlanhla went outside and with Ines.
Oh no, they're not working together. She's on.
Okay.
He sent me all the 14 priorities. I have them with me, and I also have the one for the D20.
With everything that we
I have everything.
Okay.
And now it's the values 20 I have. I think I'm okay. And then we'll take everything here, we'll consolidate it, and we'll share it among each other. And then we'll have another engagement to discuss further.
Sure.
Okay.
In preparation.
Yeah, that was the aim.
The whole
Okay.
idea is to prepare what we will submit
Correct.
as a final product.
Correct. Okay.
So yeah, we've got to have another engagement.
Okay. Simunye then on that.
Because, the big thing is that, when Nhlanhla and I were talking, he's saying the meeting that's happening on the third chapter meeting in the last week of June is when the former groups are meeting. Should I repeat that? Okay. So I was saying that Nhlanhla mentioned to me in the break that at the end of June, the 13 engagement groups that are formally recognized are presenting to the South Africa presidency on their priorities. They call it a midterm submission. And so what we learned this morning is that us as informal groups are not part of that. But then he's saying he feels that with this engagement, that there is an opportunity for input that will strengthen their argument when they submit at the end of June. So this exercise is actually coming at the right time, and it's very important.
I just want to check for understanding. So we are not expected to submit anything because that was the initial understanding, right? That end of June we're going to submit our first drafts.
Yes, so it looks like from what Ben said to us, it's changed now. So what they're saying is our biggest opportunity, and Tiejo confirmed, our biggest opportunity is the social summit.
Yes.
But then between now and the social summit, Gustavo did say that there's a lot of lobbying from different players. And if we get into the game too late, we won't feature
Yes.
in the final communique. So this has come at a great timing, and we have an opportunity to kind of see these areas of common interest and then meet again, and then we say jointly, this is what we came up with. And then when he presents, or the team presents, he'll say, actually, we consulted with V20, we consulted with D20, we consulted with IF20, and based on our collective thinking, these 3 items or 4 items are what we agree on. And it will carry a lot of weight from that perspective. I hope that helps.
So C20 will represent us collectively based on our...
It sounds like there's a willingness here.
Yeah, on the
There's a
30th of
willingness.
June.
It's 28, 29 June.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Does that help?
A joint
Submission, correct.
so everybody will see it before it goes there, right?
Okay,
Okay.
cool, thanks.
Sandile, I think the question of clarity is this. So once this group submits to C20, who is likely to take our case forward from the faith perspective, then when do you get back to your constituencies, number one? And number two, the social summit, recommendations from the social summit, do they have enough time to consolidate it to the C20 for November? Or is there separate direct engagement to G20 from the social summit? Yes. Okay. And when will that be tabled?
I'm not an expert on the G20 process, but I can tell from the point of view of my conversation from the Brazil presidency, what I did learn there, let me not say, I'm not lecturing here. What I did learn is that even though there's a lot of submissions that happened before, and there's still a lot of lobbying, when a social summit takes place, there's still a gap that's available. That's why it happens a few days before the Leader Summit, and there's still influence that can come from the groups that are participating in the social summit. So I think for me, what I was proposing is to say, this is a great opportunity, and I'm grateful Nhlanhla is back to say, with the things that we are finding in common, we really have a chance of saying, hey, as you present with your team next month in the midterm, you can say easily that actually of these areas we are presenting, based on our conversation with the V20, IF20, and D20 and others that you will engage, these are areas we agree on, and that there's support from these groups. And so that's what we were saying. Does that help? Yeah, there's not only one opportunity. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. There's many opportunities, and we need to... I love what Inez reminded me of earlier, to say, Gustavo, who was here from Brazil, the Brazil presidency, he said this, don't worry too much about the formal process. Think about what needs to be done and do it. And so what we are, I think we were touched by God for us, all of us to be here, because we are seeing that there is power in our collectivism. And so it's a great opportunity for us to talk, but it's also even a better opportunity to continue to talk and to share ideas.
Yes, I think that I just want to thank actually the IF20 for you for saying let's do this. When he suggested it, it was quite an interesting option. I had a very long conversation about today with Tiego, and I've had lots of conversations with Ambassador Mbongo about how this is going to work. And from what I'm understanding, because it's the 20th year, and they're looking at the entire process of the G20. Does it continue? If it continues, why does it continue? What are the processes? So they are assessing what the outcomes have been over the last couple of years. Were they acted upon? That's what Tiego spoke about, legacy programs, specifically linked with South Africa. We must always consistently remember we are South African, and we're looking at this as a very closed South African context. We need to maybe broaden our scope and remember it's African as well as international. It is a global event and therefore has global impact. And for me, exactly what Sandile has just said, don't stress about your process and your procedures, because that is what Gustavo said to us. Don't stress on the procedure. Don't stress about the process. Get on with doing what you're doing. Don't worry about how great your website looks. Don't concern yourself about all of that, but make sure that the nitty-gritties, that we get to an initial communique. And from an initial communique, we can develop into something further. I mean, we only have our event in August. And my biggest concern was how on earth are we going to get our outcomes prior to when we actually do need our event to have our outcomes, right? So when I brought that to Tieko, she said, it's not to worry. You start with the June situation on, I think it's the 28th of June. Yeah. We have the 28th of June where we bring something forwards. And collectively, we can work together. There are some real commonalities. I mean, if I look at it, it is economic empowerment and, being concerned about the conflict and I think that has come out and the damage that it does. I think that everybody is kind of on the same table with that. The exclusion, when it comes to disability and the need of values, that values translates directly into, or should translate from a religion, faith perspective. So there are those areas of commonality. I think that the less defined it is maybe easier. So they're looking for a single-page document, remember. Sorry,
yeah. I wanted to say something interesting. When we were talking about this earlier, our president for the IF20 said, please remember this one thing. Even though you bring different groups together, none of them should feel like they should lose their individuality. Yes. It cannot be that, hey, we bring everyone together to be one organization. It's not the case. The individuality is important. We keep it the same. And also, there shouldn't be any feeling that anyone wants to take over or hijack any grouping, and I hope no one feels like that. And so all of this is done in the spirit, should be done, and I feel like it's been done in the spirit of Ubuntu, and it's organic, and we just have to make sure we remember this is about God's children around the world, especially the vulnerable communities.
Okay. I hope we'll close the conversation soon about process. I think it's been managed properly, and then we'll go into things that we want to say.
Yeah. Well, with the International Advisory Committee of C20, so as South Africa, we wanted, as civil society South Africa, we wanted to deal with a lot of our own issues. But then what we were told is that, look, for the most part, because this is an international or G20 process, what we must do, we must have continuity from the previous C20s so that we import into the policy packs of government. That's why our starting point was to look at what is government doing. Now, I think whilst like Prof would like some departure, it may not be possible because of that input into the policy pack. But then we were also advised, that is South Africa, which is what you are saying, Sandile. The second element is about looking at not doing engagements for maybe radical statements, but even if it's a radical process that breaks from this diplomacy of the G20, we may, as South Africa, so in some instances, nothing stops us from, in the terms of reference, look at land. And we are looking at land maybe from South Africa, Africa, and the rest of the world. So that is something that we will, or we as C20 have been inundated, because initially we announced that it will be South Africa, Africa, and the global South. They are all like proposing other things over which there are institutions that are already there in civil society that can implement. But there are others that we can reconfigure or configure from South Africa flow. So the last point is actually what Sandile is talking about at the social summit. The social summit will have an outcome. The social summit of Brazil has an outcome. It's online, everybody can access it. We can have a social summit that has got a lot of radical statements that have got very little to do with G20 as an institution, but it has got to do with the future of the world. And this is what we are saying, maybe as the people of G20 and the world. So I think that what we then have to be smart about is about identifying that which we want to input into the policy pack on, that which we want to design our own programs on, and that which we want to be a statement that maybe even generations, if we did nothing about, will take up. So those are things that have been organizing our thinking. So it's not like what the professors are saying. We need to look at land, the scope for doing that. We could do it by elaborating in the terms of reference of the existing working groups. Thanks.
Thank you. Professor Motseha. Matole Motseha, do you want to say something about?
Yeah. I was in the same class with so we were in the same class, but I didn't know that he's more intelligent than me. Because you see, if our starting point is landlessness,
It seems like it's off. Do you want to use this one, please?
if we depart from the premise that landlessness is the root of all evils, it will flow that landless people are degraded and dehumanized. And this degradation and dehumanization lead to moral degeneration and the social ills that we're trying to address. This landlessness leads to poverty, and when we deal with poverty, we say poverty alleviation. In other words, we say we will reduce the pain that you get from poverty. We are not eradicating poverty. So even the terminology is a problem. We should eradicate poverty, and you can't achieve it unless you restitute the land to its rightful owners. I think because we like investors, we are afraid of telling the truth. To say the investors will run away. Actually, investors are even a problem. When they invest their money, they come their technology, there is no technology transfer. That's why Africa cannot produce simple things, because there's no technology transfer. And the UN in the 60s said there must be technology transfer. So I think all these things we are doing just to sugarcoat our problem and its effect on us. So let me conclude by saying, let's go back to the land and mineral resources and make an audit. Who owns the land in this country? You know, the African majority are only about 4%, even less than what the Indians own. How does that situation arise?
How much does
And
government
then,
own?
And then white people own 72% of the productive land.
How much does government own?
Pardon?
What percentage of land is owned by government in South Africa?
Government? Or nothing.
And the Ingonyama Trust?
None. It's a side show. Government here just claims to own land. That's not that they own. 87% of the land is in private hands. 72% of the productive capacity is in private hands. How are we going to bring solidarity? How are we going to bring quality? How is anything going to be sustainable?
Okay. May I ask, I need to ask you, in the context of this group, what do you think can be done in this context with this?
Yeah, in 2 minutes. In the context of this, I am saying, to go back, let's look at this thing that when you throw in the water, it causes the ripple effects. And is land disposition of minerals, ownership of our land, our forests, and our mountains by conglomerates from America and Europe. That's the elephant in the room. We must address it at that conference. If we can't bring that message, if we can't bring that, we will have wasted the resources of the people and the time of the people.
Somebody had it over there.
Thank you. I've been listening attentively and patiently, and summing it all up, I want to say, but I don't want to be the voice of God, eh? I only want to make my input. Looking at it all, I think it begins with land, like Professor Mutsecha is saying. And land translates into all the problems we are having as a people. For instance, when you look at GBV that we sing about and we blame men, that is compromised, lost masculinity on men because they can't be themselves. They can't support families. Looking at broken families and, in fact, the lack of family in the African community, where children are just born between two people that are friends and they have no family background. It goes the same thing, landlessness. So, as the moral compass of the nation, we, the interfaith people, must begin with instilling values to our politicians, whom we have given the carte blanche to run the country unhindered and unquestioned. That is very dangerous. We are where we are because we, the interfaith people, lost our position. Instead, we treated our politicians like they were celebrities for us to kneel before them and ring palms. Let's stop that. Let us educate them, tell them what the Almighty wants of them. Ubuntu, from their ancestors, what it demands of them. All right, shared growth, equality, caring for one another, compassion. We have lost all those values. Why? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We want to wrap up. I think we're still within the time allocated for the session. Is there anybody else who has something they must say, otherwise they will not feel good? We'll take a few more hands and we'll wrap up.
Okay, thank you. If I can put my 2 cents to what the colleagues have already alluded to, I want to concur with the 2 speakers that spoke before me. Who said yesterday at the Kara, we had people, we had Ingwenyamas, we had the king, King Mahlangu was there. What came out from the traditional leaders that were there, they were saying that they were talking about the big thing. The professors that were there can attest to that. They were saying the what they were crying of, they said their land is their heritage. We cannot talk about their heritage heritage and spirituality without talking about the land. You cannot talk about the sacred sites without talking about the land. You cannot talk about many things without mentioning the land. So because that's who they really are. And one traditional leader also mentioned that the traditional leaders, they own the land by birth or by blood, not by title deed. That one there. We are talking about sustainability and food security. Now when I grew up, we used to have the food gardens in our yards, but is that enough? I once went to another squatter camp around Rondebult. They don't have the primary school because the land that they're supposed to build is owned by the private developer, and the private developer is with the land. And in that place, it's a Mikuku area squatter camp. They don't have the primary school. They have to travel to another place for education. We are talking about equality. Equality is there. So how can we say today we are equal if I cannot tint the land so that I can produce something or for my stomach? It means that we are saying people should go and buy somewhere because I cannot plow my own thing. How can we talk about equality if whatever we have in South Africa is not shared amongst people? So now I'm just summarizing what was discussed yesterday to say the land question is very, very important, and we don't have to shy away from discussing it because it should find expression somewhere so that even the people that are going to receive the report, they should know this is the perspective that was put on the table without fear or favor. Because if we sweep it under the carpet, we won't be doing justice to the people who doesn't have voice. So let's have voice for the voiceless. Let's not censor things, and let's not speak with fear, but fearless. Thank you.
Lastly, in KZN, people build on riverbanks because they don't have access to land. It rains every time. KZN is swept away by the water. And African cremate. But now in KZN, the municipality says people must cremate because there's no land for burial. In Johannesburg, they are saying there's no land, people must cremate. But space the university owns here. I think that we have to tell the truth. Our people must cremate contrary to their belief system because there's no land. Our people must be buried on top of others because there's no land. We talk about equality, we talk about solidarity.
Okay, I have to say, look, it's important to allow people. What I've learned is that there are many areas of passion about different things. Somebody is passionate about women's rights, about religious issues. I'm passionate about corruption in South Africa.